Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ballast Exercise Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Chada, and this podcast, just like everything I do in the profession of exercise, is dedicated to the act of helping you and people like you feel, function, look, and live better through exercise. And I am absolutely delighted today to have one of my clients, Hailey Patry, on the show. Hailey is an extraordinary person. I'll just take a moment here to read her bio for you. So Hailey is best known for her work as your true happiness coach, the relationship repair specialist, and the happy business coach. She is an award-winning and internationally best-selling author with 5 books and counting, including Happy Love for Couples and Life Lessons, 52 Tips for Living Your Best Life, which can help everyone. Hailey has spoken for over 2 million, audience members, and she has served over 30,000 students in 136 countries. Like many of us, she wears a lot of hats and is a happily married mama of 3 boys with a long list of neuro-diversities. Plus, she lives with chronic pain, a rare genetic chromosome disorder, and a bone disorder, and yet she is named as World's Happiest Woman. Hailey will share her best practices with you on how to live a life of balance, bliss, and success, especially in challenging times. As a speaker, author, and coach and facilitator, Hailey has run many successful companies, some of which include a $60 million home-based business, a brick-and-mortar business in the health space, and her coaching company, www.theliftedlid.com. Now thriving after overcoming more than 4 decades of trauma, Hailey has dedicated her life to helping you design a life you love, no matter what cards are in your deck. And she is an expert on making more than just lemonade out of lemons. Today, we're going to have a candid discussion about how to start and end your days with intention to enjoy the space between, and otherwise known as your life. And she not only introduced herself, she introduced the podcast, which is absolutely awesome. Hailey, how the heck are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Well, Sam, I'm hanging out with you, so I'm awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me on your show today. I got to listen to your very first episode, and I knew you're going to be bringing great people and great topics together. So I hope your audience also knows how lucky they are, not just that you bring guest speakers, but to get to learn from you. You are so passionate about helping ensure that your clients' bodies work from head to toe, toe to head, everything in between. And as an actual client of yours, I really benefit from the muscle systems work you've taken me through after a series of injuries and oopses and some health challenges. You are one of the few people I would get up at 4:30 in the morning to come and see at 6 a.m. for. So thank you for all the great stuff you do. And I'm honored to be here with you today.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, you might note that the color of my face right now is probably the same color as my shaker cup from the blessing. Thank you, Hailey, for that. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. I
And
brought my pink bottle just in case you make me blush. We're good.
there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I like to start these interviews with a bit of a more personal touch. And I'm wondering, on that note, if you could tell our audience about Jessica Rabbit.
Well, aside from her being a very voluptuous cartoon character, oh man, 14 years ago, I was a single mama with a 3-year-old. I'd come out of a really challenging divorce, and I was starting my speaking career teaching great people how to pivot. How could you reinvent yourself, get back out there after some hard things? So I drove from Vaughan, where I was living, all the way to Hamilton, where I had never been before. And I was giving a talk to a group of business individuals. And the reason I was invited as the guest speaker, somebody else spoke to that group the day before and said, "You should meet our trainer, who's kind of like Jessica Rabbit." Now, at 5 feet tall with brown hair, I am not sure how I got classified as Jessica Rabbit. However, I'm really glad I showed up to that crowd, because when I asked who in the room had kids and nobody put their hand up, just trying to be funny, I said, "Who wants to borrow my 3-year-old for the weekend?" And this gentleman, who I've been with for 14 years, he put his hand up and he said, "Excuse me, miss, but if you're there, I'll be there." And he has been raising that 3-year-old, who's now soon to turn 18. He has legally adopted him, and he helped make our 9-year-old and 7-year-old, and has been one of the greatest blessings in my life. So Jessica Rabbit, cartoon, introduction, marriage, babies, the rest is history.
Fantastic. I love that story. I love that. And I've heard it before. And it's one of those stories I could hear again and again and again. I just love it so much. And what we're here to talk about today is the importance of morning and evening routines. And you and I had a chat not long ago where we kind of got into how dedicated you are to the idea of morning and evening routines. And the thing that struck me is, I started this podcast to help people feel, function, look, and live better through exercise, through discussing exercise related topics and also exercise adjacent
Yeah.
related topics. And I feel like the idea of having a solid morning and evening routine that may or may not include exercise might at least help facilitate good exercise. So where does the importance of morning and evening routines come in for you? And I know it's a very general question, but I thought maybe we could start there and just see how the conversation evolves.
And I think the distinguisher is it's the difference, Sam, between a life lived on purpose and a life lived by accident. So those of us that value an evening and morning routine, we have no choice but to start with identifying when do we want to be asleep by, when do we want to be wakeful by? Or in other words, we need to discuss what our circadian rhythm is going to be. And if we live life with even those minimum intentions of when do I want to be asleep and when do I want to be awake, we can start to reverse engineer the what's in between, otherwise known as your life. And for those of us that live on purpose, we tend to make better decisions. We don't live on autopilot. We don't live on automatic. We don't live in reactions. We make choices. And we're really careful with that space in between of how we allocate it. I like to call it the I team. These are our 5 resources: your intention, your time, your energy, your attention, and your money. And people that have a morning and evening routine, we are just more careful. We steward things with a little bit more thought. We're not so laissez-faire because we realize there's not just 24 hours in the day, there's 16 of them that we're out of bed, and there's 168 hours in our week. And if we're not careful, we'll give them away to video gaming, binge watching Netflix, going down the rabbit hole of a social media scroll. And for those of us that know, hey, I need 90 minutes to be in top form, we don't waste time in the same way. We spend time, but we spend it on purpose.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. And let's sort of satellite out a little bit if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
What inspired you? What drove you? What created the purpose in you to do what you do as a profession, as a couples therapist?
Well, I think when you are the kiddo of an unhappy marriage that
Mm.
learned to turn a corner by its 50th year and work out, when kids grow up in marriages that are tumultuous or homes that are tumultuous, we often crave doing it better when we grow up. And when I was that kid, I certainly craved doing it better. I am the wife of a first time unsafe marriage that left and became a single mom and claimed safety. So I know what a non workable relationship looks like. And 14 years ago, I co designed with my husband an amazing relationship, one that has weathered more storms than any couple should ever have to go through. And for me, Sam, it's not just the training and the professional, certifications, it's that lived experience. So when I am working with a couple, if they're dealing with things like communication barriers, trauma, they're dealing with mental health such as depression, anxiety, unresolved childhood issues, if infidelity is present, I have a lot of empathy for how much they're hurting. If they've got kids, how much those kids are hurting. But more than that, I know that happy love is a set of skills that couples aren't taught. And when couples are bestowed those skills, love doesn't have to be so hard. So I am really, really passionate about making sure that couples get the training on how to be good at this thing called a relationship. Without it, love is really hard. And I've experienced it firsthand, both as the kid and the spouse. With those skills, love can flourish, and everyone deserves to have them.
That's fantastic. I always I came to my profession through my experience as well. And I always love hearing stories of people who came to their profession through their experience and sort of
Mm.
taking what they saw as a negative situation in their own lives and turning it around, not just to help themselves, but to help literally millions more people in your case, or tens of
It's like
thousands,
if,
if not
if you
millions
know
more
the cure
people.
for cancer, you're not going to keep it on a shelf in your closet. And so
Hmm.
it's even why I wrote the book Happy Love. If I die tomorrow, I want to make sure that the techniques that work They're available to people. And it's really just that simple. When a couple's getting married, it's part of why I certify wedding planners to become marriage planners, so that they'll actually teach a neutral, so non-spiritually affiliated, a neutral marriage prep class and give couples those skills so we could decrease the divorce rate and the trauma rate in marriage.
Fantastic. So getting back to the idea of morning and evening routines, how do morning and evening routines relate to your work as a couples therapist?
Yeah. So back to that life lived on purpose versus by accident. Couples that don't have an evening routine can donate their life to the couch, the television, the snacks, or the bottle, and they will find that their mental health and physical health will get affected in a negative way. Their moods will get affected in a negative way, and the way they treat each other will be suboptimal. It also has an enormous effect on libido if we are dealing with screens, snacks, substances, and falling asleep in that environment. It's not likely that good things are happening later for couples. Couples that have a morning routine together, they are choosing health together. They're prioritizing vitality. They're saying, "Hey, if we live till 120 and you're beside me, I'm going to be in the best darn form that I can be, so you don't have to take care of me, short of an accident." The other reason it's really important is it allows couples to know who needs what when. So somebody might be in the 6 a.m. club and their partner, if there's kids, covers the morning dash. The partner who got to have their 6 a.m. routine, maybe they cover the evening dash and the bedtime routine so that their other spouse can go and do their significant routine. And it's about communicating what your values are and making that time, because mental health, physical health, heart health are important. And by heart health, I mean emotional heart health. So couples that take the time, they're going to fare better individually, which by default, they will fare better together.
Fantastic. Now you mentioned the 6 a.m. club, and I've also heard of the 5 a.m. club and groups like it. And one thing I've been noticing, I'm a morning guy myself, and I've got a little morning routine thing that I do, though I'm always open to suggestion and coaching in that area, because I find myself frustrated or restless with my morning routine at times. And I will say I've seen, particularly in social media lately, that those 6 a.m. club, 5 a.m. club things have gotten a bit of a bad rap lately. And the points that are being made, I think, are being made in a cynical way at times. On the other hand, I could see a scenario where someone's morning routine becomes counterproductive. And I haven't thought really about, what that looks like, what lines might be crossed where someone's morning routine
Mhm.
goes from being a really great thing, morning or evening routine goes from being a really great thing to being a not so good thing or a counterproductive thing. What does that look like in your opinion, in your experience? Where does a morning or evening routine sort of go awry and go from being a healthy, productive, great thing to a counterproductive, not so great, negative thing?
Three ideas are coming to mind, and I was just writing them as you were talking.
Sure.
The first one is shame. So when we set up something for ourselves that's rigid and we can't comply, maybe our kids have been sick and we're up at night. Maybe work had an implosion. Maybe you had an accident or injury. Maybe you're caring for an elderly parent and your normal sleep schedule isn't possible right now. If we're too rigid about it, then we can apply shame to ourselves when we're not able to comply and feel like I'm not doing this thing well enough. So we want to make sure we build in flexibility, not rigidity, and to have that self compassion. Someone who gets up at 5 a.m. every single day might not be able to if they're caring for a loved one at 3 a.m. And so that's the first thing. The second is where we are means that there's also somewhere that we're not. So if we are at the gym for 2 hours, we are not at the breakfast table with our loved ones. If we are out on the trail doing a 90-minute run, we are not in our home with the people or the fur babies that matter to us. So we have to make those careful choices. And sometimes we overindulge in what we're doing because we really believe in it without recognizing, well, if I'm over here, where am I not? Who am I not with? And is there an impact? And the last point would be time mismatch. If I wanted to be in the 5 a.m. club, I'm a girl that needs 8 hours of sleep. That means I need to be asleep by 9 p.m. That would drastically limit the amount of time I have for my marriage if I'm getting out of my kids' room by 8 p.m. And so I favor my marriage. It's one of my core values is the healthy couple we are. And my husband is awake between 9 and 10, and I want to be with him. So we have to notice wherever we are, there's somewhere else that we're not. And I want you to say yes to self care. But if we let anything go out of whack, if the dial gets cranked up too high, there's other things we're not attending to if we have a 3 hour morning routine.
That's fantastic. And what I love about what you said there was that it's one, there seems to be a context
Yes.
behind your answers, which I really appreciate. And the first point you mentioned was flexibility, not rigidity, and that became evident in the remainder of your answer too, which is always a pretty cool thing to hear.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
it's built
sometimes
in.
we're in the
It's
club
built into
and
the
the club
framework,
celebrates consistency.
right?
And the club says if you miss a day, like if you're on a 90-day challenge or a 60-day challenge, if you miss a day, you have to start over. That automatically applies shame. We failed to meet the grade. We didn't do it well enough. And there isn't room for, and you and I have talked about, personal growth, flexibility, expectation, context. We need to leave room for our humanness and the humanness of the other people that we care for. And sometimes life will throw us a curveball where it is acceptable not to get up at 5 a.m. And you have to be able to make that decision without feeling bad or having the group make you feel bad.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, that's fantastic. So, what does the framework look like for morning and evening routines according to the work you do?
Yeah. I would say there are so many flavors, just like ice cream. There are so many flavors, so many ways, so many ingredients that you could put into a morning and evening routine. If I'm working with a client who's ready to design one, we're going to start with the basics like when do you want to be wakeful and when do you want to be sleeping by? And with that data set, it doesn't matter if it's 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. or 11:30 and 7:30 a.m. We start from that data point, and the next question would be how much time would you like to invest in yourself in the morning and the evening? The third question is what about your life would you like to treat in that time? Do you want to put in some things that treat your body? Do you want to put in some things that treat your mind or your mindset? Do you want to put in some things that treat your heart or whatever you believe in, if the word spirit, energy, soul, whatever that is for you? Because there's endless things. We could be exercising, we could be meditating, we could be writing or reading or doing rehabilitation work. We could be writing a book. There's a lot of ways. It's important to simplify it. So, when do you want to be asleep and awake? How much time do you want to give to an AM and PM routine? And do you want to treat your brain, your body, or your heart? From there, we'll design your 5 minute routine or your 90-minute routine.
So, there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of time as well.
For sure. For
All
sure.
right.
Even Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, which has, a beautiful number of steps in it, you could do it in 5 minutes if you do a little bit of each one.
So you actually gave some frameworks just a few minutes before we started, or maybe it was like an hour before we started, and I just got it a few minutes before. You sent some frameworks for a morning and an evening routine. Can you tell us about those? And I think
Yeah,
in your email it says my evening routine system and my morning routine. So could you tell us a bit about that? What that looks like?
absolutely, Sam. I believe that every good human being, by the way, I believe every human being is a good human being. I believe every good human being deserves and requires carving out some time for yourself if you want to thrive. And so, my acronym that I use, that I've created, is CARVE. C stands for care. Give yourself whatever form of care you need in the evening, whether it's care for your mind, your body, your heart, your surroundings. Maybe you're surrounded by clutter. The A stands for affirmations. What is the thing you need to hear at this moment in your life? Do you need to tell yourself that you're worthy, that you're deserving, that you're well, that you are lovable, that you're strong, that you're forgiven, whatever that is for you? And it just takes seconds. The R stands for reconnect. And if you have a significant other, yes, I mean with them. If you've got kids or pets, with them. You can also reconnect with your platonic community. You can reconnect with nature or yourself. But going to bed connected is important. And here's why. isolation is the greatest risk factor for depression, addiction, and suicide. And we can talk a lot about the impacts of the last 4 years, but that's a whole other
Mhm.
show topic.
Absolutely.
A person who goes to bed connected is going to wake up with a better mood. The V stands for visualize. We want to visualize not all the things you did wrong today and all the horrors of tomorrow. We want to visualize, what are you up to creating? What do you want tomorrow to bring? What do you want to create this week, this year, this lifetime? And to visualize in a way that I call dream casting, where you actually start to fantasize while awake about the amazing life you're creating and keep that visualization going until you're tired enough to fall asleep. It's like hacking your dream state and bringing in those positive thoughts. And the E in the CARV acronym stands for end well. This is massive. Many people go to bed anxious, angry at self, and angry at others. We ruminate over every mistake we made today, all the people we're disappointed in, all the things we're stressed about for tomorrow, and that is the opposite of ending well. So if you want to close your day, close your eyes, close off cortisol, let melatonin come up, have restful sleep, and wake up energized, we've got to turn that busy mind off. Maybe we need some self forgiveness. Maybe we need to forgive someone else. Maybe we need to count the good in our day, even if it was tiny, even if we produced just one thing. Maybe we need to see the good in the people that we love. But if we can go to bed, if we can end our day on a positive instead of in the middle of a fight or a rant, it's going to be more productive for sleep. I'm also really passionate, Sam, about sleep hygiene, not having EMFs anywhere in range of our head and our body, full darkness, the right kind of air, the right temperature, the right pillow, whatever we can do so that we are setting ourselves up for a good rest. But yeah, that's what I do. I use the CARV system, and how I fill it in is different on certain days, and some might be TMI for your audience, but it's in there.
Well, I mean, we're trying to be pretty open here, and that was actually going to be part of my next question. You don't have to feel compelled to share anything personally. I want to be careful when I ask this next part, not to get into the
Mhm.
Stephen King's pencil issue, where people will be at a conference and trying to figure out how to become the next Stephen King and ask, well, what pencil did he use? Because I think that might help me write like him. But if I'm in this routine, could you give maybe an example of two of care, affirmation, reconnection, visualization, and ending well? Like what those, because some of them seem pretty concrete, and others, particularly people like myself, dudes, may not have much experience with affirmation, visualization, or sending love and creating forgiveness in the ending well. So could you help us
Yeah,
out with that?
for sure. So let's talk a little bit about dream casting. So many minds go to bed stressing, worrying, being sad, frustrated, whether it's upset with ourselves or upset with the world or upset with somebody else. And that is an anxiety producing state that doesn't allow for restful sleep. So when we look at a positive visualization before bed, I would invite you to do a scan of all the parts of your life that affect you. They include things like your physical health, your sense of connection, your career, your life purpose or passion, your mental health, your, uh, let's go through all of them, your home life, your finances. We can look at, and actually, here, I'll just pull it up for you, Sam, because we are on Zoom here. I just open up this little document. These are the 12 things that affect our happiness: our quality of sleep, our amount of energy, our physical health and body, our family relationships, our friend relationships, our work, our finances, our mental health and mindset, the amount of fun and adventure in our life, which is highly underrated category, our home life and what it's like to live inside those walls, our sense of connection or our love life if we are in a relationship, our personal growth, our sense of support, and our life purpose. These things, as we lie in bed, instead of thinking of the 5 pounds we want to lose, the debt we haven't paid off, the work meeting that went poorly, and most of us ruminate on the negative. It's asking yourself, well, what do I want to create in all these parts of my life? Which ones are so important to me right now? If I could run the fantasy and have it go my way, what's the vision? What would it feel like to be in a body with amazing energy and flexibility that's pain-free? What would it feel like if I crushed that presentation at work tomorrow? What would it feel like if when I spoke to my kids, I really resonated with them and it made an impact? What would it feel like if my partner and I had a romantic evening and we just really connected? And instead of ruminating on the negative, we start to picture the positive. Like you are the director of the movie, and the movie you're directing is your beautiful life. That's a positive way to lie in bed while your eyes are still open and say, okay, I know everything's not perfect, but what if it could be better? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What would that be like? That is a great way to visualize that which does not exist yet that you wish to exist. And I say a mantra to myself every night, which is this: if I want something, I want my kids to sleep better, if I want my health to be better, whatever it is, if I want my husband to be more romantic, my mantra is I promise when I wake up tomorrow to do the things and to be the ways that make this likely. Not to just wait for it to manifest and show up, but to actually get up tomorrow and take the actions that would help it along. So that's visualizing.
That sounds a bit like affirmation as well, or would affirmation be separate from that?
Affirmation is more so a practice where, for example, we take our hand to our heart, and I recommend if you can be skin to skin, like feel your skin, feel your humanity, feel your heartbeat. And we tell ourselves the things that we should know by now, but sadly we don't. You are loved. You are whole. You are worthy. You are capable. You are more than enough. You've got this. And an affirmation is something that, had we all been raised in some perfect way that doesn't exist, we would know by now. Our self worth would be a 10 out of 10. We'd have zero insecurities and zero self doubt, but that isn't the human experience. So it's us telling us what we need to hear so that we can have a healthier self esteem and healthier self worth. And you know you're affirming the right thing, Sam, if your mind goes BS. You know, if I look in
Yes.
the mirror and say, I love my thighs,
Mm-hmm.
which might not be the case. If your brain calls BS, well, that's a good affirmation. It means you don't know it yet. And it'd be better if you knew that to be true.
I understand. Okay, so it's like you're trying to, or I think I understand anyway. It's like you're trying to create new pathways or something, trying to
Yeah.
try to open new doors for how you actually see yourself.
Well, what we're really doing when we affirm is we are touching, programming, and loving our subconscious mind. Each of us have been shaped by the events of our life, and many of them happened when we were too young to have a filter. We were too young to know if this is a good imprint or not a good imprint. And so our subconscious mind holds our set of beliefs. Are you good enough, smart enough, talented enough, attractive enough, important enough? Does your voice matter? All of those things are held in our subconscious mind. So when we affirm and we program with things like I am, or I am in the process of becoming, it's touching that part inside of us that has some scars, that has some rememberings of the things that have happened to us that weren't so great. So, an affirmation is you programming your set of confidence, it's programming your consciousness, and it's a very loving form of self therapy that we can do for free. Takes a minute before bed.
One thing I love about how you position this, and I just want to call this out because I know of, and I used to be, I would say, someone who was very well, if I'm being kind, skeptical, if I'm being realistic, cynical about the idea of doing things like affirmations and visualizations, because there's a community that's known. I don't know if this is accurate, but known for having those sorts of things replace action to move things
Uh,
forward. And what I
yeah,
love
that
about how you've positioned it in this conversation, and in other conversations that you and I have had, is it's not a substitute for action. It actually sets the stage for better action, and that
yeah,
I think is a much
it's
more useful way
proclaiming
of.
what you're up to. So, if we use the word manifest or postulate, they mean the same thing. It's anything you think, say, or write down that comes true. But I'm A type. I'm kind of a pain in the butt, control, maybe a thing. And so why just put it on a vision board, throw it in the drawer, forget about it, and wait for it to show up? There's so much more we can do to feel deserving. We're all deserving because you're born, you exist, you're deserving. But in order for each of us to feel deserving of the good things we want to create in our life, we might as well take empowered action and help them along. We don't have to just wait for it to show up. But you asked also, Sam, about ending well.
Yes.
Closure and non-closure. When closure exists, we have a better chance of emotional wellness. When non-closure exists, we live in a trauma state and our mental health will suffer. Bless you. So when we go to bed, most of us go to bed with non-closure. We're upset still at ourselves. We're disappointed in something we didn't perform enough of today. We are upset with somebody else. And many of us are passive instead of assertive. We go to bed with unsaids. We go to bed incomplete. This is not only going to disturb our sleep state, because it's going to keep our cortisol, stress hormone, active, it's going to affect our mood. It's going to affect the dread we have for tomorrow instead of the confidence we have for tomorrow. And so closure before bed, that's what I mean by end well. If you need to tell somebody you're sorry, I forgive you, I love you, it's okay, do that before you go to bed. There's some truth in don't go to bed angry.
Now, under that, just to touch on this, I'm just curious about it. In the note you sent in the email under "and well," you had a little note in there that says "my all." What does "my
Mhm.
all" refer to?
To-do lists. So some people, might be you, used to
Just
be me,
maybe.
just maybe.
Just maybe.
Some people make lists on Post-it notes, back of the hand, napkins, Kleenex, the wall. They text themselves. When we make a to-do list and those items don't exist in our calendar on a day and a time, they roll over. And what you didn't finish today snowballs with what you didn't finish tomorrow, last year, next year. Many of us, when our head hits the pillow, we can't help but feel like a failure because we didn't check every one of those impossible boxes. So my all is a system I've created where in one place, the iPhone or Android, whatever you use, there is one list. On that list, we capture everything that accumulates throughout the day. Don't forget to send Sam my bio. Don't forget to pick up the dry cleaning. Don't forget to call the naturopath. Every thought we have in the day that requires an action goes on one list. Before I end my day, Sam, I take that list and I put it into just a few places. One, I put it in my calendar if I'm going to action it within the next 2 weeks. Two, I move it to a list called my month, and I'll get an alarm 30 days from now to see does it matter. Or three, I put it on a list called my year, and I'll get an alarm at the end of the year that says, does it matter? When I go to bed, my to-do list has zero, nothing, nada, so I can feel like I won the day. If it came up today, it's getting slotted into my calendar, a monthly reminder, an annual reminder, or I might just look at it and go, wasn't important, delete. Or it's important, it's not for me, delegate. But there is some power in getting to go to bed clean slate, and most people don't have that freedom.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And now, I love the acronym for the I recorded another podcast before this, and anybody who listened to my interview with Avril from Symbol will know that I love me a good acronym. So Crave is great, and I love this Life Savers morning routine acronym. Tell us about the Savers morning routine.
So the Lifesavers are created by Hal Elrod, and he is the creator of the Miracle Morning, that whole movement, and the many books and titles that have sprung up from it. And Hal's system, I really like his acronym because lifesavers, doing these things really can improve your life. The savers stand for the following. S equals silence. So this is for your morning routine. S is silence. A is affirmation. V is visualization. E is exercise. Get a good trainer like Sam. R is reading. And S is scribing, or in other words, writing. So if somebody had 60 minutes for a miracle morning, they could allocate 10 minutes to each of those things. 10 minutes of silence, 10 minutes of affirming, 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of high intensity exercise or rehabilitation, regenerative movement. In his philosophy, he shows that top producers and high achievers they don't start their day by accident. They start their day on purpose, and they do those 6 things. They do them as a ritual and as a daily habit. But you could do them in 6 minutes. You could read one good page, write one good thing, do a minute of HIIT exercise, do a minute of silence, a minute of visualizing. It doesn't have to take 6 hours.
Now, um, I can't think of a better word right now, but I'm a huge believer in this line of thinking, and it makes complete sense to me that people who are successful, for the most part, would start their day on purpose with these sorts of things. What would you say to the idea that the best way to start your day is to just get up and work? Like, there are people who are tremendously successful, and I'm not even trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to bring up this point. There are people who are tremendously successful, like to take the, I guess the sort of ultimate example of this would be someone like Elon Musk, who just every waking minute he's working. Now, that's not a life that I think many people would strive towards. At the same time, the idea of, if you want to be successful at work, let's say, get up and work, do it.
And
How
I
would
think,
you address that?
if we program in that reminder for flexibility versus rigidity and customization, we're
Mm-hmm.
each our own unicorn. I think the important question to ask ourselves when we choose when in our day do I do what is to assess your own energy. There are high cognitive demand tasks and low cognitive demand. Like, I can fold laundry and not think, but I can't write my next book and not think. There's high energy tasks like exercise and low energy tasks like read. Each of us, our hormones are different, our brains are different, our physical energy is different. Also, who's around in our house at the different hours of the day is different. Maybe you've got a partner that leaves for work or kids that go to school. So I would say, Sam, it's customized. If somebody knows that they are an eat that frog kind of person and they won't do it unless they do it first, they might benefit from get up and work and do self care after. Somebody else who struggles with anxiety, depression, and their body feels like 8,000 pounds to get out of bed, well, they're going to need to start with self care first before they have the inertia to go into work. It's individual for each person. And you don't get a prize if your routine is best early in the morning and right before bed. You can get just as good of a prize if you have a midday routine that's very nourishing to your brain, body, and heart. It's not the time you do it, it's what you do, that you do it, and that you are worth doing it for.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, you were kind enough in this email to outline your own morning and evening routines. Would you be okay to take us through it?
Absolutely. And I wrote it out for you just because it's got such a hilarious number of steps. So, if we talk about mornings, we have to talk about nights. If we talk about nights, we have to talk about evenings, and we have to talk about days. And the purpose is, which domino knocks the other dominoes over. So for me, having a great morning routine, it starts by planning. If I have to be up at this time with a smile and good energy, when do I need to be asleep by? And if I need to be asleep by 10, when do I need to wind down by? If I want to wind down by 8:30, when do I need to start getting my kids' bedtime routine started? And when do we need to serve them dinner? And when are we having family fun? And if that's starting at 4:30, when do I need to wrap up my workday by? So it's looking backwards to make sure, but I'm just going to read it to you, friends, in Sam's audience here. Here's what I honestly do in the morning. Step one, my alarm is not a blaring noise. It's one of my favorite songs. It's the song I walk down the aisle to, and it's called The Ocean by John William Bald. And it's just beautiful, soulful music. So my body doesn't wake up with cardiac arrest in the morning. I hear that music, and right away, my mind goes to this happy place on the beach in Jamaica, and I start with a smile. While I lie there, not yet ready to get out of bed, I take 2 minutes and do some heart focused breathing. I'd like to give credit to the Heart Math Institute for that technique. It's 5 seconds in through the nose, 5 seconds out through the mouth, doing that for 2 minutes, bringing in the good, letting go of whatever you need to. That is statistically enough to regulate our heart rhythm, helps to keep her blood pressure good. So I do a little breathing. And then I'm not immune to anxiety. I can dread the amount of work that's happening in a day, the kids' behaviors I might face, the pain I might be living with, the appointments I might have. So I have trained my mind to picture the positives. What am I going to create today? Who am I going to make a difference for? I also remind myself, what's the carrot today? What fun thing am I doing with my family after work? What fun thing am I doing with my husband after the kids are asleep? And I look forward to the day, but on purpose. The next thing that's a really important part of my morning is cuddling. And it doesn't matter if you live alone, live with pets, live with children, or live with a partner. We need oxytocin. It's so important for our sense of aliveness and wholeness. And cuddling's a big part of my morning. If my husband is in bed at the time that I'm there, he's the one I'm going to cuddle with. And if it's possible that we can do a whole lot more than cuddle, uh, don't feel like you can't put making love in your morning routine, because that's a very happy way for me to start my day.
For sure.
TMI, no apologies.
Hey,
Uh,
like I said earlier, if we can't talk about those sorts of things, we're not having a real conversation. So, yeah,
right? So if you said, Haley,
thank you for putting that out there. Thank you for putting that out there.
you look happy today. And I'd say, well, I'm really grateful. My husband got to put his arms around me this morning. If all that happens is that he spoons me and he holds me close and I start my day feeling connected, I'm so grateful to be in this second marriage, which is a strong upgrade to the first. I'm so grateful for that. But there was more than cuddling this morning, so I'm extra happy today. If you've got kids, on the days that my husband's are maybe gotten up earlier than I am, I make my way into my kids' room. I will hop in their bed and snuggle with them for 10 minutes. I want them to wake up with oxytocin. I want them to feel connected and loved. So cuddling is part of my morning routine. Then, yes, getting out of bed. What I do when I get out of bed, very blessed to have cultivated a healthy digestive system. And so I head to the bathroom. And while I'm there in the bathroom, I clear my inbox, not because I'm going to get stressed or put out fires. I clear my inbox because I like to start today tabula rasa, clean slate. I want who needed me from when I went to sleep till now to get attended to. I want to send that love to clients, family, or friends who need me. And then I can put my phone away and confidently start the outbound part of my day. I take a bath every morning. I don't know if you're a shower person or a bath person, but I don't do a 5-second emergency rinse. I got a hunk of rose quartz, some Epsom salt, some essential oil, maybe some music going. I take and enjoy my morning bath. It's for me, it's a form of self care. And while I'm in there, I drink my first 3 glasses of alkaline water so that I can prep my system with something other than coffee. When I get out, I do have a coffee. I put it in a mug that has a self therapy message, and I'm drinking alkaline, organic, free trade, good for you coffee with no sugar. When I'm downstairs making my coffee, I put intention to my meals. So I make sure that what I'm going to be eating throughout the day is available so that if I have to go through appointments, I can nourish well. I send out confirmations to all the people I'm seeing that day and let them know I'm excited to see them. If you want to have a life where people don't cancel on you, remind them that they're important to you. I protect my workout time. So there are days, if I see Sam at 6 a.m., movement is part of my morning routine. But to be honest, I like to see my kids and my husband in my morning, and I often make my movement part of my pre-lunchtime routine. So part of me getting started every day is I look at my calendar. It looks like this. It is OG, old school paper agenda book, and I make sure those workout times are protected. I have my workout outfit, my shoes, my little backpack, my water bottle. It's non-negotiable that I'm doing this thing. And as I start my work day, I reference my calendar. Some people make plans that they forget to check. And lastly, I start with a positive intention. If there's something on my mind, I write it down. If there's someone I need to send love to, I do that. If I need to make an apology, I do that. I really want to give my clients my 100% best. And there's many other things that go into it, Sam, but that's the honest truth. That is what happens here in the morning, and then I'm primed for my day.
And this is while running a pretty successful business and being the mom of 3 kids.
Yeah, with special needs, who
With special
often
needs,
are
yeah.
having a tornado in the morning. But I have to give amazing credit to my husband. Uh, Relationships are designed uniquely in every family. And in this family, my husband was a stay at home dad for 8.5 years. And I was the one responsible for generating the income for paying the bills. He became an enormous superhero dad during that era. And he really champions the morning routine. So, moms, I am speaking to you right now. If it no longer fits in your life agreements to be accountable for all the hoopla in the morning, talk to your partner. If you have a partner, if you have older kids that can help, talk to them. Sometimes we just get stuck in the assumption that it has to be us and it has to be the same. Maybe we need to shift the balance of who does what and when. So I am blessed, Sam. My husband is the king of the mornings. I'm the queen of the evenings of the kids like when I put them to bed, but he does a lot in the morning so that I can do this morning routine.
Got it. Got it. I think that sounds fair.
Yeah,
That sounds fair and correct in some sense as well.
yeah.
And
No
now
one
you're
person should do everything for their family. And all the jobs in our family, at least, all the jobs are equally important, whether it's wiping boogers or bums, whether it's making doctor's appointments, doing laundry, making money, giving keynotes. Like we are equal. We are Team Patry, and an hour of our time efforting for our family is treated equally. So not one person can do everything. We all need a little downtime.
it all works to the system. It all works to making the
Yeah.
system work.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And now your evening routine, the carve.
Yeah. So for me, living with some health conditions, C stands for care. In my evening routine, I do some self massage for my injuries. So I apply certain products that help me with my pain. And for me, taking that time to have, care for my own body, making sure I've taken my evening supplements, having that wind down, because I live with nerve pain 24/7, an evening walk is an important part of my self care routine. The A of affirmations, I tell myself what I need to hear that day. And every day it's different. For me right now, it's about wellness, it's about vitality, it's about acceptance. The reconnect, it's with my hubby and my kids. I have a 17, almost 18-year-old. I hear when he comes home from work in the evening. I might be in bed, I might be sleepy. So I make a conscious choice to get up, walk downstairs, hug him, welcome him home, tell him I love him, ask him how his work shift was. It's a small example of reconnecting. Uh, for visualizing, I dreamcast. I choose one project in my life every night. I turn on the mind movie. I start to build that fantasy vision of what am I creating? What am I doing about it tomorrow? And I end well. If I need to send a text to my hubby to say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was in a funky mood today." If I need to send love to one of my kids, I'll leave a note in their lunchbox. If I know a client is struggling and I need to just send them off a couple little tips and actions so that they'll be okay, I want to clear my mind for good sleep. So anything that's running on that hamster wheel, I get it out of the wheel and into reality. And I send love, not just to others, but to myself. Where the pain is in my body, I thank my body for getting me as far as it's gotten, for holding up as well as it holds up. I thank my mental health for handling all the things that we handle, which are very, very hard right now, and still functioning for me. So it's a little bit of when you go to bed at night, what would your best coach say if your coach was giving you the pep talk? And you're the coach for you. Just like I coach my clients. No one's there in my bed at 10 p.m. to coach me but me. And I give myself whatever pep talk I need so that when I close my eyes, I have closure. I'm complete for today. I have permission to shut down and go to bed. And the last thing I do, because I did battle depression, Sam, from the age of 8 to 16, I battled depression terribly. Getting out of bed in the morning was so difficult for me. My heart really goes out to any of your listeners that they themselves or a loved one are dealing with depression and anxiety that makes it so hard to get up in the morning. It was really hard for me. There was nothing I looked forward to at that part of my life to get out of bed for. So now, every night when I go to bed, I decide what are those carrots? What do I get to look forward to tomorrow evening, and tomorrow night? And that really pulls me from wanting to stay in bed to wanting to get, not just willing to get out of bed, wanting to get out of bed in the morning. And I know it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot of steps, but these things take less than 20, 30 minutes, and not doing them is catastrophic. So it's worth it.
That leads me to two other questions.
Yeah.
Where does just vegging and watching an old episode of The Simpsons or some other kind of just like, you know, not negative, maybe not wholly positive, but like not negative, funny show or something to just veg and kind of let your body just go ploof into the couch or into the.
But what you want to know is, are my hubby and I human, and do we watch Netflix? Heck yes.
Yeah.
However, here's how we curate the content, the amount of it, and the timing of it. You
Okay.
probably know the phrase Netflix and chill.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, good marriages need to chill and then Netflix.
Okay.
So here's a little TMI, or not, because most couples could relate to this. Most
Let's get after
couples,
it.
most couples watch the Netflix menu for a very long time before they pick what they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a fight brews before they even pick a show. When the show happens, one person's interested and maybe the other isn't, and somebody is snoring before the shows are done. Are you cuddling? Are you having pillow talk? Are you sharing vulnerably? Are you touching intimately if you're snoring on the couch to Netflix? No. And so in our house, if we want to be close, we are chill and then Netflix. And what we watch, for me, matters. I watch things that are upbeat. I get nightmares if I watch horror or crime, or, there's also a lot of trauma I've lived through in my life. I don't really want to watch it in movies.
Right.
But we watch mindless stuff. Right now, we're watching Love in the Wild, where couples in Costa Rica have to do random adventures and see if they're compatible. There's a lot of things that we'll watch, but we're not watching it for 6 hours. We'll watch an episode after we've connected, had pillow talk, talked about our days. It is our mindless unwinding at the end. And yes, we're human and we watch TV too, but
All
it's
right.
measured.
So we all have permission to be human then.
Oh, absolutely. I eat chocolate. I just eat it in moderation, and it's dark chocolate. Life needs to have some luxury in it, and some good in it, and some imperfection in it. We are all human. And if somebody is going through a very hard time right now, and what they need is to take their mind off the horrors of their reality, my gosh, watching TV is healthier than some of the other vices you could choose to detach from that pain. Well, it depends what your intention is, and how you use your time is up to you.
Fantastic. Okay, that was a great answer. I really appreciate that. And again, it speaks to flexibility rather than rigidity, but with some positive constraints. The way I saw it was flexibility rather than rigidity with some positive constraints in place so
Yeah.
that the things that probably ought to be your top priority get taken care of first. And I feel like that's hard for a lot of people until they actually try it.
Well, it's
Until
it's
they,
hard, just like cardio's hard, if you're
sure.
not in the mood for cardio, but you feel better and the endorphins kick in when you're done. And the thing is, Sam, we are not in charge of what's already happened to us in our lives, but we are in charge of what we do next about it, and some of how we allocate our time. So I'm not saying my husband and I are perfect. We've certainly watched worse things, but when possible, again, it's only 168 hours in the week. When possible, I want to watch something that's good for our soul. Lately, we got into watching Live to 100, where they talk about the founder of the Blue Zones, talks about the 5 places in the world where there are the most centenarians, as in people who've lived to 100, live well, and live joyfully. So, are we turning our mind off reality? Yes. Are we snuggling and having a tea while watching Netflix? Yes. But we're also learning something. It's
Mm,
positive content. It's something. TV is best when you can book club about it. When you and who you watch the TV with can pause the episode and say, "What do you think about that? Wow, that was really interesting. That was so shocking. What are we going to do because we watched that?" That's the best TV, is when it's like a book club.
fantastic. Fantastic. And then that leads me to what might be my final question. Actually, no, it's not. It'll be close to my final question. But you'll have the people out there that say, okay, I thought it was going to be 90 minutes, but she's saying 20 to 30 minutes for these routines. But even 20 to 30 minutes seems really hard. I have to wake up super early and I've got kids, or I've got a demanding job, or I have a cat that won't leave me the fuck alone, or something, anything along those lines. So what would be your strongest recommendation for someone looking to start a morning or evening thing with just one thing or with just 5 minutes? And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we could address it specifically. How would you frame that? What would you recommend?
I would give that individual 3 ideas to ponder. Number one, stop the biggest bleed first in your life. If you are dealing with a myriad of physical health conditions right now, your evening and morning routine should attend to your physical body. That is going to make the most marked difference in how you're feeling. If the biggest challenge in your life right now is heartbreak, maybe you are going through grief, a breakup, the challenge of dating online post pandemic. If your heart is the thing that is the hardest part right now, your evening routine needs to fill that love cup for you. And if it's your mind, if you are being challenged by addiction, depression, anxiety, PTSD, or the hauntings of trauma, then your evening and morning routine, if it had one thing in it, should honor your mindset and your mood state. So that's the first idea. Honor your biggest bleed. We want to make gains in that. The second idea is, if we talk about our neurochemistry, if you know yourself well enough, what do you need? Do you need a dopamine hit to start and end your day? Like completing something, checking the box. Do you need some serotonin? Do you need a little more happiness? Do you need something that makes you laugh? In which case, The Simpsons, as you said, maybe that's your thing if you just need to laugh and make it light. Do you need oxytocin right now? That sense of connection, that sense of closeness, which you can even get from your puppy. Or do you need relief from cortisol, your stress hormone? And do you need one activity, morning and night, that's going to bring down your stress and bring up relaxation? And the last idea, so first idea, stop the biggest bleed. Second idea, what do you need? Third idea, your senses. If you have just 5 minutes, you've also got 5 main senses. What would help you feel awesome to start and end your day? What do you want to see? What do you want to smell? What do you want to taste? What do you want to touch? And what do you want to look at? Did I say that in order? Smell, taste, see, touch, and hear. I like to smell orange, wild orange, or citrus, or lavender, or mint. I like to see the beach, whether it's a real picture or a picture in my mind. I like to taste an herbal tea, or just my alkaline water is fine for me. I like to touch something warm. And if there's not a body there, a blanket, a cozy pair of socks, my covers. And I like to hear beautiful music, handpan as an instrument, ocean music. And if we've got just 5 minutes, we can do a sensory bomb where we honor all 5 of your senses. And at least you have this moment in time where your brain, body, and heart are feeling just a little bit better. Maybe tomorrow you'll make more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that last part there, but maybe tomorrow you'll make more than 5 minutes. It's like, yeah, if you figure out, wow, when I take this 5 minutes and I feel so much better, I get to my exercise, I get to work, and I'm more productive. I feel better with my partner, with my kids. Can't see why I wouldn't make a little more time for this and see if there's a proportional return on that time investment. That makes total sense to me.
You bring up such a good point, Sam. If I feel better, then maybe for my partner, my kids. As a couples coach, I always say it takes one before it takes two. Whether or not you're in a relationship, how well you take care of yourself is going to impact how you show up for others at work, your neighbors, parents, in the community. If we don't take the time to take care of ourselves, we will take other people's time because they'll have to take care of us. If we don't take the time to take care of ourselves, we won't have the bandwidth to care for others when they need us. It's not a luxury to take time for ourselves, it's a requirement. If we're not optimal, then what? And especially if you're someone that loves to be there for other people, you got to pour extra into yourself so that you can keep on keeping on. I know as a mom, I owe it to my kids to stay mentally, emotionally, and physically as optimal as possible. I can't be for them who I want to be when I'm not okay. And so we got to drop the old adage of self-care is selfish in a negative. We've really got to embody this belief that the most loving thing each of us can do as an individual is be our individual best so we can show up our best for ourselves and for others. And not having an evening routine If you interview most households that don't have one, a lot of TV, a lot of sugar, a lot of starch, a lot of salt, more alcohol than ideal, other substances, very little talking, very little intimacy, very little connection, very little meaning. And that tends to go with poorer sleep, a later start to bed, a later wake in the morning, more fatigue, more coffee, a crash in the day. The dominoes are endless when we don't live our life on purpose. We might as well start with, when do you want to go to bed? When do you want to wake up? How much time do you want to spend being good to yourself? What do you want to put in that time that would make a difference at whatever you're going through right now?
Awesome. 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 Why is exercise important for you?
Oh, so many reasons. Oh my gosh. Nature versus nurture is a big part of that conversation. I think that each of us marinate in a particular upbringing. That's the nurture. And each of us have a particular set of genetics, but we can turn on and off certain genes, certain predispositions based on our lifestyle choices. And so when I look at my genetic ancestry, it's not a pretty picture for health. My parents are both on a whole lot of medication. My dad is diabetic. He had 2 heart attacks. The first one, he was my age. They both have high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They are not at the weight they want to be. They aren't at the mental health that they want to be. And exercise for me, Sam, is something that it's something we get to choose. We can't choose who made us or what genes they put into us, but we can choose what we do about it. And movement for me is my happy place. Exercise is important to me because it stops the monotony of other things, takes me out of a pressure cycle, maybe from work. Exercise is important for me because I believe that if you don't use it, you lose it. I believe when it comes to my joints that motion is lotion. I believe that when it comes to this whole vessel, it's up to me to treat it kindly, to move it, to keep it flexible, agile, strong, able to do functional movement. I have enough fear in me from what I've seen in health of family members to know I got to do all I can about what I can. Can't control that gene pool, but I can control my exercise routine. It's also that self pride, starting exercise. I might not be in the mood, but when I hack that and do it anyways, I can feel good about myself, proud of myself. I can feel accomplished, benefit from all the endorphins as everybody else does. I think we also ride a metabolic high after we exercise. And, some of what we put in is going to be measured more kindly. There's endless reasons to move. I mean, we could do a whole other hour show on that. But for me specifically right now, with tremendous nerve pain, sitting sucks and sleeping sucks. If I could walk 10 hours a day and swim 10 hours a day right now, I would.
Yeah. Yeah. And where does exercise fit in, or does exercise fit in at all in your couples counseling?
Yeah. And I just thought of one more thing to your first question. The other two reasons exercise matters so much to me. I have 3 boys that are all athletes, and I want to be able to take them all around the world on all the coolest adventures. And I want to zip line with them, swim with them, run with them, hike with them. I want to show them an active, adventurous life. And so their mom is never going to be a couch potato. And I want a marriage that's juicy, sexy, fun, and adventurous. And I want to make sure that my body functions for that. And so it's not just me that I exercise for, my own health or mental health. I care about being able to participate with the people I love, and exercise helps. When it comes to, you asked, how does exercise fit in with the work I do for couples? I treat a lot of infidelity. I'm not giving a free pass based on somebody who's not in good form. But I have supported many couples where one partner felt so insecure about their body, they no longer wanted it to be seen or touched by their partner. For their partner, that was a traumatic loss to no longer have physical closeness. And they could only endure that loneliness for so long before they started making poor decisions that brought a lot of trauma and pain to their marriage or relationship. So, staying healthy, having a healthy body image, healthy body confidence, this is a huge part of a healthy relationship. Because like ourselves naked, we don't get naked with other people.
Well, and what I love about how you frame that is it's not, like you said, it's not giving a pass to the person who committed the infidelity, but it
No.
does seemingly look to create an environment of understanding
It's a
wherein,
domino that we could avoid, and we might as
right,
well spot what are those early dominoes. And sometimes a person who goes into a state of poor physical health or poor body image, poor body confidence, they stop wanting to present their body for closeness. That is an enormous trauma to their partner who might deal with abandonment, rejection, loneliness, or a mismatched libido that they say, well, we used to do this 3 times a week. Now we haven't done it in 3 years. Where am I supposed to put this energy? And it's devastating for couples, very devastating for couples when there's a barrier to having closeness together.
I think that's probably a great place to stop, Hailey. That's probably a great place to stop, Hailey. Thank you so much for being like, unless there's something else you wanted to cover.
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Sam, for being so wise to bring exercise adjacent topics into the equation. What you do with movement, with body mechanics, with muscle systems is such an important part of the equation. If somebody doesn't have enough self worth that they book time, they'll miss out. If they sleep in and sleep past it, they'll miss out. And so I'm really grateful that your audience is going to get to learn not just about body systems from you, but all those exercise adjacent topics. And I'm really grateful to be on the show. If people take one thing away, it's figure out when you go to sleep, when do you want to wake up? How much time do you want to give yourself? What's at least one thing you need for your brain, your body, or your heart? Start small.
And Hailey, if there's anybody out there listening to this, or any couples out there listening to this that want to look you up and get some counseling from you, where can people find you?
Oh, that's such a kind question, Sam. You can go to theliftedlid.com instead of stuck in the box, lift the lid. So if you can go to theliftedlid.com, I actually publish my cell phone number on the site, and I give you permission to post my number in your podcast show notes, because if you are listening to this show or watching it and someone that you care about is struggling, you can send me a text. I will, as a human, not a robot, write you back, and let's spend a free 30 minutes together and get you unstuck. It's always a pleasure to gift you 30 minutes of my time. It's a pleasure to gift you a digital copy of this book and for others, because I really want you to have a great life. And if we can remove some barriers, let's do it. I'm in.
Hailey, thank you so much for being here today. You're fantastic. I always appreciate you and your time, whether it's in our professional client dynamic or just chatting like this one on one as two like minded professionals. You're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'll see you as you work on my body and health really soon. We'll switch hats.
Yes. See you soon. See you soon. Thanks so much.